When we think of great historical figures, our minds often jump to conquerors, right? But today, we're looking at someone who did something much, much harder. We're going to dive into the story of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, but not just as a warrior. We're going to see him as an architect, the architect of a nation built on ideas so powerful they still feel radical even now.
I love this quote. History has produced many conquerors, but very few builders. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're not just going to list off a bunch of battles. Nope. We're deconstructing a blueprint. We're asking the big question, how on earth did one man, born into total chaos, manage to design a state that was so far ahead of its time? This isn't just a story about winning a kingdom. It's about what it really takes to build one that can actually last.
So, to really get this builder, you first have to see the rubble he had to work with. Let's set the scene. Imagine the Deccan Plateau in the 17th century as this giant, chaotic chessboard. The local powers, the sultanates, they were falling apart, just bickering and weakening themselves. And then, from the north, you've got this massive, powerful Mughal empire pressing down, ready to just swallow everything and everyone whole. It was a complete mess.
And if you were just a regular person living through this, forget about grand strategy. Your life was all about daily uncertainty. There was zero security, absolutely no dignity. You weren't a citizen who the state was there to protect. No, you were basically a resource, a subject to be squeezed for every last drop of tax money by some far-off court. Your loyalty? It was for sale. Your well-being? Total afterthought.
So, how does a leader like Shivaji even emerge from a world like that? Well, it doesn't happen by accident. His incredible vision wasn't just born, it was carefully forged. And it was forged by three key people, his mentors, who together gave him every single tool he would need to completely reshape his world. Think of it like each mentor giving him a critical piece of a puzzle. First, his mother, Jijabai, she was his moral compass. Then you have his guardian, Daji Kondedev, who taught him the practical stuff, the real nuts and bolts of how to run things. And finally, his guide, Samarth Ramdas, who gave him that deeper, philosophical sense of duty. Altogether, it was the ultimate education in how to be a truly principled leader. And you really can't overstate his mother's role here. I mean, it was foundational. She wasn't just telling him bedtime stories, not at all. She was using the great Hindu epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, as his textbook on how to be a just ruler. From these incredible stories, she drilled into him this core concept of Raj Dharma, this powerful idea that a king's real duty isn't to be powerful, but to protect and to serve the people. Okay, so he's got this incredible education, moral, practical, the whole deal. And the young Shivaji doesn't just sit on it. He starts turning that vision into reality, and fast. This wasn't some slow burn idea, it was a spark that caught fire right away, all driven by one single, incredibly radical idea: self-rule. And get this, at just 16 years old, he captures his first fort. 16. But you've got to understand, this wasn't just some kid going on an adventure. No way. This was a statement. It was a declaration. It was the very first physical brick he laid in the foundation of this whole new kind of state. He was making his idea real. And that central idea was called Hindavi Swarajya. Now, on the surface, it just means self-rule of the native people, which sounds simple enough. But at the time, it was absolutely revolutionary. I mean, think about it. In a world where kings and emperors claimed power either by saying God gave it to them or by just taking it with brutal force, Shivaji came along and said, nope. He argued that real legitimacy, the real right to rule, comes from the people you govern. A ruler's one job is to look after the welfare of their people. And if you can't do that, you have no right to be in charge. It was basically a social contract, hundreds of years before that idea became popular in the West. Okay, so having a big idea is one thing, right? But actually building the systems to make that idea work, that's a whole other ballgame. So now let's look at the incredible architecture Shivaji designed to turn his philosophy of Swarajya, or self-rule, into the day-to-day reality of Suraja, which means good governance. And really, this is the fundamental question he had to solve. How do you build a state where power actually serves the people, instead of just serving the powerful? That's a tough one. And his solutions were, honestly, mind-blowing for his time. His big answer, in a nutshell, was to decentralize. He created something called the Ashta Pradhan, a council of 8 ministers, and just look at their jobs: finance, military, justice. This wasn't a cabinet of his buddies, it was a team of professionals, chosen because they were good at their jobs, not because of who their dad was. It was a meritocracy,
pure and simple, and it was all designed to stop any one person from getting too powerful.
And here's another, what seems like a small change, but it was a total game changer. See, the old way to pay your officials was to give them land. And what did that do? It basically encouraged them to squeeze the peasants on that land for every penny they could. Shivaji said no more. He completely abolished that system. Instead, he paid his officials a straight-up cash salary, right from the state treasury. And just like that, their loyalty shifted. It wasn't about getting rich anymore, it was about serving the state.
And this wasn't just talk, these weren't just principles on paper. There's this incredible story. After his army captured the fort of Kalyan, his men presented him with the beautiful daughter-in-law of the defeated commander like she was a prize of war. And Shivaji's reaction? He treated her with the absolute highest respect, apologized for what his men had done, and arranged for her to be sent home safely. He basically told her she was as beautiful as his own mother. Can you imagine the message that sent? In his kingdom, dignity, especially the dignity of women, was non-negotiable. Integrity wasn't just a virtue, it was state policy.
So, after decades of fighting, of building, of putting all these systems in place, the time finally came to make it official, to make a formal, undeniable declaration to the entire world. This is the climax of the journey, the spectacular coronation in 1674, the moment his vision for a sovereign nation was finally sealed.
In this timeline here, it just shows you the sheer grit it took. I mean, from taking that first fort when he was just a kid of 16, through unbelievable victories, even a legendary escape from Mughal prison. Every single step over almost 30 years was leading to this one single moment.
And the title he chose, Chhatrapati, was a huge deal. It means Lord of the Royal Umbrella, and it signifies supreme sovereignty. This wasn't just him saying, "Hey, I'm a king now." By having the ceremony performed according to ancient traditions, he was making a massive statement. He was declaring that his state was an independent, sovereign power, built on its own terms, rooted in its own culture, and the equal of any other empire out there, period.
All right, so why are we talking about a ruler from the 17th century right now? What's the big deal? Well, it's because the principles he used to build his nation, that architect's blueprint we've been talking about, they're completely timeless. In fact, they speak directly to the massive leadership challenges we're all still dealing with today. I mean, just think about these ideas. Servant leadership, the whole concept that your authority only exists to serve other people. Meritocracy, promoting people based on what they can do, not who they know. An ethical culture, recognizing that integrity is a massive strategic advantage. Sound familiar? These are the kinds of buzzwords we hear in boardrooms and business schools right now. This guy was putting it all into practice 3.5 centuries ago.
Look, the reason we still talk about Shivaji Maharaj isn't just because he won a bunch of battles. It's because he built something. He built institutions, he built systems, he built a culture, all of it based on these incredible, timeless principles. And that leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Whether you're leading a company, a small team, or maybe just leading your own life, are you just conquering your day-to-day challenges? Or are you actually building something that's meant to last?